Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another weekend trading analysis video. And just to get really quick into it, what we're going to do is just go over the trades that were taken this week, as well as looking for other trade opportunities that we can see for the upcoming week as well. And as you guys know, I like to start with the fundamentals all the time, looking at what sort of news, economic events we do have coming up. So let's just take a quick look at that for next week. So starting Monday, we don't really have much. We have RBA meeting minutes for the AED firstly. And we also have some Euro ECB speech as well for the Monday. Okay, looking into the Tuesday, we have some CPI trade of balance. For me, I would say that not USD, but for the Euro CPI, this is what I'll be mainly focusing on. It's not really important to pay attention to the other CPI looking at the individual countries within the euro area. This is the more sort of important economic news that you want to pay attention to. We also have some CPI data for the CAD as well, looking at inflation rate, expecting the inflation to come down here for the month-over-month. So this would be interesting to see what sort of movements we do get from the Canadian dollar, especially since we did have a very bullish CAD last week, right? So we did really have a bullish CAD, more so on the back of oil news, oil movement. So we did see the CAD basically get a raise out of that. How is it going to continue with the actual CAD data coming out, looking at inflation rate, and we also have the inflation rate year to year. All right, so we have month over month looking to see a decrease, while year over year is looking to see a slight increase of 0.5%. So really, it'll be interesting to see what sort of movement we do get from the Canadian dollar. All right, Wednesday we have inflation rate for the GBP, expecting an increase as well. So we have inflation rising across the board for a lot of these economies. We also have USD interest rates. So expecting interest rates to remain the same. That's the consensus that we have here. This is going to be a pretty interesting one to actually see. And then we have FOMC economic projections. So this is another one that we really need to pay attention to. And you can see we also have some interest rate projections as well. So we're going to have a very volatile US dollar next week for the Wednesday. For these projections, we could expect to see an increase on rates. However, what we do get in terms of the release for the rate projections themselves here would have a major impact on the US dollar. All right, whether we're going to see a continuing rise or we're going to see a fall of the US dollar. Into regards with this, I say that this here would be what we really need to pay attention to. From the last previous times that we did have some rate projections, we saw a very drastic move to the upside from the dollar, and that was just projecting that we have interest rates for the month of August and September. So with that being said, we could expect to see rates increase because they did project twice we'll have rates increases, and obviously these other rate projections would play a part on the market dynamics for the dollar. All right, besides that, we have some NZD GDP growth news as well. So this is something I'll keep on my radar, especially if we do have a lagging dollar, depending on what sort of numbers we do get for here. Then that could possibly lead into some good indications for the NZD GDP growth. If we do have this coming out as expected, then we could see a rise in the NZD. NZD USD might be a trade that we could take, but we have to look at the technicals as well. All right, for Thursday, we have interest rates again. So expect to see an increase for the GBP. We also have some food hike, food cuts. So we have some more economic news that we need to pay attention to, and all of this coming out at 7. So if the news does come out as expected, for the food unchanged and all of this, then the main thing we'll pay attention to, markets will pay attention to, is that interest rate hike. Now, we have been seeing some drastic and really weird movements when we do have interest rates increasing. For a lot of these economies, we'll see a bearish move on the currency itself. Whether that's going to be a continuing theme or not, I don't know, right? I don't really want to speculate too much as to what to expect, but we could see that interest rate rise. And usually when we see interest rate rise, what usually is to follow is to actually see the dollar, whatever currency we are looking at, gain value. So that would be sort of what I'm looking at or looking forward to coming to the interest rate decision here for the GBP. All right, we also have some troublous claims data to pay attention to. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on the US dollar, to be very honest with you guys. Dollar has been very shifty in terms of market movement and everything. So I have been more on the weighing side of being, not too much in the dollar view right now. All right. And the next thing we have here is inflation rate for the Japanese yen and the interest rate as well. So with the interest rate, if rates do retain this negative, right? If the Japanese yen does retain this negative rates, I do think that we could see some yen weakness and potential buying setups on something like GBP yen, for example, especially if we do have these two economic data coming out in the exact same day. I think that would give much more room for seeing a drastic price increase or better yielding price movement. All right, on Friday, we have retail sales for GBP. Expect a slight increase from negative 3.2, right? So negative, a positive one increase. Positive 2 increase. Besides that, not much else. Card retail sales, something to pay attention to here. Expecting a positive increase as well. And retail sales month over month, expected a positive increase, right? We have S&P Global Service PMI to pay attention to, which will affect the indices. All right, so a lot of news events coming up, pretty news heavy week as well. Same thing as last week. We have a lot more interest rates to pay attention to for the US dollar. We have the euro, we have for the US dollar, right? We also have for the pound dollar, and we have for the, it's just the US dollar, pound dollar, and we have for the Canadian too as well, right? I think we just went over the Canadian dollar as well, right? Yeah, so unless I'm tripping, no, it was inflation. All right, so I was tripping. Yeah, so that's it that we have in focus in terms of interest rates. A lot of news coming out, right? Especially looking at things like the inflation rate as well as retail sales. So a lot of high impacted news for these economies. We do really need to pay attention to those. Besides that, I'm not feeling too well, if you could tell. Let's take a look at the charts, right? So first thing first, I want to take a look at the DXY and something that we saw. They actually saw the DXY US dollar trying push past this resistance right here. So on this daily resistance, we actually got that move to the upside, which was very surprising, actually, in terms of the news that we did have come out. This was a very drastic, unexpected movement to actually see, at least for me, right? So I believe at this point in time, the news that we did have was ECB related interest rates. So we had the interest rates coming out better than expected, right? And we saw the dollar actually push above, right? So the dollar did actually make this drastic push during that same time. And for the euro, we saw the euro just tank completely. Now, from the perspective fundamentally, I still think that we could actually see more than likely leading into this week some retracement movements on these drastic moves to the downside. So for me, one thing I'll take a look at, right, is probably Euro 80, for example. Maybe we could get a retracement back into this level here where price previously broke, where we saw that initial break to the downside. So a possible move back into this level for possible continuation slower. That's what the market is currently giving us right now, continuing downtrend movement. And, you want to be with the trend, right? Rather than trading against it, unless there's something stating that, all right, maybe the trend is starting to move upwards. But for now, I think that overall, what we could see is just a pullback into this level. And at that point as well, look for possible sell opportunities here. Same thing for the Euro card, but I'm gonna take this off of my list of things to watch, just because card strength is something that's been really predominant in the markets right now for the past couple of weeks. So I don't really want to trade against the card in terms of looking for upward movement back into this level here. But once we do reach into this level, I would take a possible sell continuation. Right, so until then, I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the card in terms of retracement movements, but I would be looking at this level for price to possibly reach into to see sell side continuations. Right, Euro GBP was something else on my list as well, but you can see that we did have that upward movement. Yeah, so that's it for the Euro pairs. Euro USD and all those other US Euro cross pairs, not really paying too much attention to that. Maybe Euro JPY is something I'll give a chance to, as we do have with the upcoming inflation rate numbers and interest rates for the Japanese yen. All right, so for now, I would say that my main focus right now is possibly Euro AED buys back into this level right here. And I'm just going to put my alert here for this. Right, and maybe Euro JPY looking for upward continuation, but obviously this is coming more closer to the actual news event that we do have for the Japanese yen, right? So I do think that we could see some Euro recovery on these two, Euro AED and Euro JPY. And maybe possibly see a continuation on this here Euro JPY, as we do have yen weakness if rates do do maintain its negative, its current negative value, right? So this is what I'm paying attention to right now. I think these two do have like the best possible movements to actually see something from the markets. Just from the fundamental and technical aspect, they do look pretty good for me, right? So if you take a look from the daily here, price just ranging, overall uptrending movement. We do have this sort of range bound movement right now, but we could say that, all right, off of here, price rejecting off of this daily supportive zone, we could come to completion of that zone to the upside here for hourly possible areas of entry. As price reached into this area and rejected off of it, here on the 4 hour and the 1 hour, we could say that, all right, this here could act as a possible supportive level with that uptrend continuation back into this major resistance zone. All right, and yeah, this is just one of those trade probabilities for me, right? Obviously, if you want to be more conservative, you could wait until you see continuations or the likelihood of seeing that upward trend continue. If price manages to push above this resistance here, then obviously we could see some momentum to swing back to the major resistance zone up here. All right, so this will be my outlook for this. Same thing for the Euro AED. Basically same thing here, right? Showing similar price action movement. Looking at the daily, we can see, all right, price came down. We dipped pretty bearish into this zone. All right, we could use this as a zone right here where price was previously battling with, and it pushed above. Right on this daily candle close, we closed above this area here, so we could see a continuation back up in towards this high, this daily high, as a possibility, right? So from the 4 hour and the 1 hour, I do think that Euro AED has a lot of potential to actually see price move higher. So maybe if this would be our entry point, extend this higher, and I like to keep my stop losses relatively tight depending on the market that I am looking at. For this market, for this particular market, what we're retaining, if prices continue moving up, then I want to see it respect like these lows here, right? So price should not move below this area here if we're going to see a continuation movement to the upside. All right, if we're taking a look from the previous low where price rejected from and started showing this upward movement, we can say that these are structures that price need to pay attention to and respect for that upward continuation. So if we are to dip lower, this would be the dip that you want to see, price reject from this level and continue moving higher, right? So if on the initial entry, price dips lower from here, then this is where I want to see price actually maintain that zone or come back above that area for that possible continuation higher, right? And that would be sort of my outlook for this in particular. Besides that, again, I'm not really focusing on too much, alright, guys? A lot of times we could get kind of confused, right? Focusing on too much pairs, looking at too much things at once. The ones that given the better movement in terms of the fundamental technicals and what better probability setups that we do have, I would say the euro is the best one right now. JPY was something I was also looking at. I think I gotta refresh this. Excuse me. So JPY, we had a pretty good movement on JPY actually, right? If I think I had to come in here and actually put it. So if we go into the Telegram, right? We go into the Telegram. I didn't post it in this one. Right, so you can see that the trading results here. The ones that we were able to recover on after this 9% gain that we did have on the 15th, right, September 15th, we were able to recover a even higher value. I think I gotta go in Discord here, guys. Right, because we were able to buy the pound, right, for upward movement, risked around 2.5% on that. And then we were able to sell the pound as well and gain a couple off of that too. So it was a pretty great move on overall for the pound dollar. Sorry, not pound dollar, but pound yen. All right, so pound yen, this was the entry point. We came all the way up here around 5% gain, with a 2.5% risk, I believe. So for me, that was like around 12%. And I was able to reach 21% in terms of gains for the week. And after that, we sold from this level here. So we did enter JPY. It was JPY, AUD/CHF, and EUR/JPY, all for sells. AUD/CHF ended up stopping me out. EUR/JPY as well ended up stopping me out. As you can see here, this was the entry point. Right, price pulled down here, but on the second candle and the third candle afterwards, price pulled higher. Right, and then you can see we came into the zone, and then price started bouncing back to the downside here, coming to the market close. All right, so those were two losses that we did incur. But as you can see here, JPY price just continued trending downwards, and we were able to exit right around here. This again was a 2% risk, so I was able to make, I think, 7% off of this 3.5. It was at 3.5 or something like that. So this was 7%, and this here was a 2% gain. So 7 and 2, we were able to make 9 with my 21 gain. So yeah, it did add up to around 30% in terms of overall return. So it was a great ending to the week, especially since we did encounter a lot of losses during the course of the week from the Europeans. I really saw the Europeans going bullishly, but price just continued diving down. So that was sort of my fault, learned from my mistake, especially when you do have situations where it just seems like, all right, you don't have any particular region, especially for something like this, for example, you're 80, right? When price reached around here, I was like, all right, we came into this major zone. Looking here to the left, so maybe we're gonna see price start to reject from that area, right? But as you can see, it started kind of consolidating, and at this point, I was like, all right, then maybe it's going to hold, and we see that push to the upside. But I should have waited for a candle to actually show me or indicate bullish momentum is stepping in by maybe a bullish candle formation right here. But you can see that price continue moving downwards until we reached right here, and then we saw, all right, that, and then price started to continue moving upwards from then. So this is just like hindsight value, right? But it is what it is. We were able to continue, stick to our strategy, stick to the plan, stick with our fundamental reasoning analysis, and everything worked out in the end. But in terms of the trade setups and possibly, where we could have avoided taking certain L's, yeah, this was one of those moments where we could have avoided taking that L. But it is what it is. We learn and we continue to grow as traders. I don't claim to be a guru or anything like that. Just a guy retail trader doing his best to be profitable in these markets, same as anybody. So yeah, this was a interesting and really well learned trade, right? Or well, trading loss, I should say. Anything else that we do have coming up? Taking a look at NAS, right? NAS on a lot of these indices. You can see the dollar strength really poured in here. And we saw that being reflected on NAS100, SPX, and US30. So they all show basically the same sort of movement. All right. Now, NAS100 is like my favorite. Sorry, this is wrong one. NAS100 is one of my favorites. That because the overall price action movement, I do think is better in terms of like, all right, it's just like from an aesthetic point of view, for me. But with that being said, obviously this does depend on dollar market strength, right? So if we do see some dollar bearishness, I do think overall we could see a continuation or movement back to the upside here. If you take a look from the technical aspect, daily, right, so we could say that these are two areas where price currently respecting at as we continue this upward trend movement. All right. So as we continue this upward trend movement, we have this area here, price reaching to multiple times, rejected from. Could say kind of consolidating at this point, right? So I do think here from the daily and for hourly perspective, we could actually see price come back downwards, right? I'm sorry, not come back down, but actually rise above these levels, right? So I think a rejection from here and a pushback up is something that we could likely see, especially after that drastic dollar movement, which was pretty unprecedented. So yeah, I just think that we could see some continuation or recovery from this bearish movement into this new week. Obviously, this would be dependent on what sort of data we do get for jobless claims, looking at S&P, global manufacturing, PMI. So these things that we need to pay attention to. But overall, yeah, I do think that if we do see some sort of support being maintained, right? So looking at this level here, if we do see some sort of bullishness, if price manages to rise above here, if we see some sort of pullback here and then a continuation or a bullish candle form, I do think the continuation move seems more highly probable than price just breaking all the way to the downside, right? So the recovery for me would be somewhere right above this area. If we see that pullback and bullish candle formation, then yeah, I say that our next target area would be right into this area here. All right, so that's it for me right now. Again, with a lot of these market analysis that I'm going to be doing from now on, is just focusing on a few pairs, looking at specific cross currencies. And yeah, as the week continues, maybe we'll get new setups and stuff like that. I'll try to do regular updates. But for now, guys, these are the only things that are in my viewpoint right now on my watch list per se. All right, so thank you so much for joining. If you found this educational, informative, then feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and comment what are you looking at in the markets right now. All right. It's always great to get different point of views, different perspectives from all these other traders out here. Maybe you're doing something that's better than me, or you're implementing a strategy that you think works a lot better. For me, what I have right now, it works. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And as you can see, I was able to gain 30%. Well, some people have been, 22 to 30% around that general area. We're able to gain a lot of profit coming to the ending of this week. So it was great overall, despite the 1 or 2 losses that we did incur. All right, guys. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great weekend and hope you have a great trading week coming up this week. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.